crack team of writers for the DCU's upcoming Green Lantern series has been confirmed. James Gunn took to Instagram this past weekend to say that the wonderful script had been penned by Chris Mundy, Tom King, and Damon Lindelof. Stick around to find out what we know about this series and how this is going to fit into the rest of the DCU. I'm Brennan Sem for the New Wave Nerds. Subscribe down below for more nerd content and commentary. Now let's read the news. From IGN, Green Lantern DCU TV series writing team includes Damon Lindelof, Chris Mundy, and Tom King. James Gunn has confirmed that the writing team for Lanterns, the DCU's upcoming Green Lantern TV series, includes Lost and Watchmen's Damon Lindelof, Ozark's Chris Mundy, and Eisner Award-winning comic book writer Tom King. Gunn shared the news on Instagram, saying, quote, "Yes, it's true. The Lanterns DCU series is putting together a crack team of writers based on a wonderful pilot script and Bible by Chris Mundy, Tom King, and Damon Lindelof. A hearty welcome to Chris and Damon Lindelof as they join the DC Studios family. No welcome necessary for old Tom King, who's been here nearly since inception," end quote. To me, this news bodes very well. I agree with James Gunn's assessment that we have a crack team of writers here. Most notable to me is the inclusion of Tom King. As Gunn alludes in the post there himself, this isn't the first collaboration between DC Studios and Tom King. Like previously mentioned, he's an Eisner Award-winning comic writer. Notably, he wrote the comic for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which is the basis for the upcoming DCU film. He's also attached to write the screenplay for that film. So that one I'm certainly excited in. I'm also interested in the fact that we have Damon Lindelof and Chris Mundy, whose credits are incredibly interesting to me. This announcement by James Gunn bodes well for the Lantern series as far as I'm concerned. It signals to me that we're going to be seeing a higher quality of writing than we've seen for most superhero series up to this point. At least in my assessment, most of the superhero projects that we've seen thus far from DC, Marvel, some of the other lesser-known ones, they still remain superhero projects. But the announcement of this writing team signals to me that the Lantern series may be less of a superhero project and more of a detective series. So why don't we get back to the article here? Lanterns was announced as part of DCU's Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and it looks to be a, quote, true detective-type mystery, end quote, with two famous Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and John Stewart. James Gunn said, quote, "That leads into the overall story that we're telling throughout the different movies and television shows. We find this ancient horror on Earth, and these guys are basically super cops on Precinct Earth," end quote. Now, the actual subject matter for the series itself is kind of interesting to me, but it doesn't necessarily grab me in the same way that the genre that has been described here does. A true detective-type mystery. Obviously, I'm very interested in any mysteries, any sort of noir-style detective-type thing. Those instantly grab me, and I love that I'm getting to see a series of that with this caliber, with presumably this caliber of writing in a superhero franchise. And what's most interesting to me is the choice of the Green Lanterns here. While I think it does make a certain level of sense, if you were going to write a detective comic, a detective film, you would think you would want to do it through the lens of Batman. But I like that we're exploring this aspect of this detective nature, this mystery, through other heroes, right? Batman is known as the world's greatest detective, but the Green Lanterns have always been space cops, right? They've always been the law enforcement of the universe, and so it makes sense that you would see this detective aspect spilled through in this film. Now, obviously, as alluded to in the article here, we don't know necessarily much about the actual plot, but as Gunn says, they're going to find an ancient horror on Earth, which is going to catapult us into this broader universe and helps sell the point of the Gods and Monsters chapter of the DCU here. So this is kind of weird to me. I wonder, when they say an ancient horror on Earth, what does that really mean? What define ancient horror, right? Is this going to be a cosmic level threat that is localized here on Earth, or is this going to be just an Earth level, an extinction, extinction level event? Is that what it's going to be here? What kind of ancient horror is this going to be? Is this something that we would have seen throughout, like DC Comics, or is the idea here that they're introducing an unrelated ancient horror, just some ambiguous ancient horror, not previously mentioned in any comics, but just as a sort of plot device to introduce the other stuff? One thing that I think could be interesting is if they use this ancient horror to introduce some of the other aspects of the Lantern Corps, right? Maybe this ancient horror is something that, I don't know, maybe derives its power from like the Yellow Lantern Corps, right? From the use of fear, or maybe the Red Lanterns through the use of anger and wrath, or what I think would be really interesting is what if this is how they do the Blackest Night? Obviously, the Blackest Night is one of the, generally considered one of the greatest DC level events. It spans multiple comics, and it, as far as I've heard, is just incredibly highly received. I wonder if that's how they do that, because that would be really interesting. What if you tease the Black Lantern Corps here, and then maybe you don't actually, necessarily really go into it. Maybe you just set it up here. Actually, that would be really fascinating, because what if a Justice League movie or an ensemble movie, which has not yet really been announced, the only ensemble film we have is The Authority, what if the Justice League film is about the Blackest Night that gets established here in the Green Lantern series? That would be really interesting, I think, because not only is it just a tremendous story, I think it lends a little bit of credibility back to the Green Lantern character, right? Green Lantern through, it's mostly, maybe I feel like it's mostly Ryan Reynolds' fault, not his personal fault, but through the fault of his movie. The Green Lantern definitely has this very negative connotation, right? That movie was just really, really bad. It did not go over well. And I don't think that connotation has existed in comics or necessarily in anything else prior to this, in the same sense that, Aquaman is another DC character who's a bit of a laughing stock, say, in the cultural zeitgeist. Now, personally, I like Aquaman. I've always liked him from the comics. He's one of the most powerful heroes that we have, and I think he's very underutilized. But I don't think that same sentiment existed before the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just because I think I was like, man, how old was I when the Green Lantern movie came out? Let's see. That's a 3. 2011. Okay, so I was 9, depending on, I would have been 9. So I don't have much frame of reference for, the attitude of Green Lantern, in the culture prior to this film. But since then, it seems like it has been nothing but just straight laughing stock, right? I don't think it. I'm fairly certain before this is the first instance of this, because Green Lantern is a fairly popular superhero in the comics. I mean, obviously not on the level of, say, a Batman or a Superman, and probably not even like a Wonder Woman. He's not a member of the Trinity, right? But I would say maybe he's on par with somebody like Aquaman or man, I'm really blanking on other members of the Justice League here. Which, if anything, is just simply a commentary on the terrible aspect of the DCU. I've read plenty of Justice League comics. Well, not plenty. I've read some Justice League comics. Man, the only one I'm thinking of is Cyborg, because right now my mind is zeroed in on movies, and so all I'm thinking of is Snyder's DCEU. So all I can think of... Oh, The Flash! The Flash is incredibly popular. The Flash, yeah, he's super popular. I would say he's probably more popular than Green Lantern. based off of nothing but my own personal assessment of the culture, right? I haven't looked at any of the, the sales over the years. I haven't paid attention to any of this, but I definitely see much more of Flash in the popular culture than I do of Green Lantern. And I think it's fair to say that Green Lantern is probably more popular than Aquaman. Maybe not these days, simply because of the fact that we've had Aquaman in film and we haven't really had the Green Lantern, except for obviously this tremendous showcase that we've got here from Ryan Reynolds. So I think that's really interesting to me. This is a show that I'm certainly going to be tuning in to watch. A detective mystery. I hope that we do get to see some more of the outer space level stuff. The description that Gunn is given here, I'll get back to this article, this ancient horror here on Earth, and these guys are basically super cops on Precinct Earth, that sort of leads me to believe that this is going to be a fairly localized story. Now, that there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, I think ultimately in a lot of cases that can lead to better stories, certainly. But I think we have to take into account the fact that this show centers around 2 Green Lanterns, right? So automatically you have to address the fact that there are multiple superheroes. You have to address the fact that there is the core, right? The Green Lantern core that exists on a universal, intergalactic scale, right? So I hope that the show mostly remains on Earth, but we do get to see some of the sort of more cosmic level of this universe. Because my belief is that Superman is going to be pretty localized. I feel like we're not going to see much outside of Metropolis and presumably some Smallville, right? We'll probably have some flashbacks or something. Ma and Pa Kent were just cast recently, so presumably we're going to have, I don't know, to what extent they're going to show up in the film, but presumably we're going to have some parts in Smallville. I think we're mostly going to be localized strictly to Metropolis. And so I do want at least one project in this current in this current chapter of the DCU that sort of broadens the universe out. Like I said, I don't want it to be too much, because I don't want to have the same problem that I commented on in reference to like Rebel Moon, right? I don't want you to expand everything out too much. In fact, that's a worry that I have with the Superman movie, is that maybe he's trying to do too much by adding all of these. I think there's 4 other heroes that are going to be making appearances. Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, played by Nathan Fillion. Isabella Merced's Hawk Girl. We have Mr. Terrific. And I'm fairly certain there's another one, but I can't remember who it is now. But that's a worry I have with that show, and I think that extends more broadly out to the whole franchise, right? I don't think you can't expand everything right away, but I do want to get certain hints of that. So I do want to see some of space. I want to see some of the Green Lantern Corps. Maybe we get some cameos from other Green Lanterns, or maybe there's cameos from other Lantern Corps. But I think ultimately anything that isn't localized to this specific mystery, I want to keep to a minimum. I want some references to be there, but fairly minimal. I want the scope to be pretty small. Now, I do want to comment directly on some of the announcements here of the writing slate for this Green Lantern series. I mentioned earlier that it bodes well. I didn't go into too much depth there, but here we have Damon Lindelof. His credits, we already mentioned Lost and the Watchmen series, both of which obviously highly regarded. I believe, so the Watchmen series, this would be the sequel to the Watchmen comic, not to the 2009 Zack Snyder film. This is a series that this has been on my list for so long, but I want to reread the comic first before I get into this, because I want to, you guys know me, I want to make sure I have all of the information. But definitely I want to read the Watchmen comic and then go through all all of the sequels. So and I guess remakes or adaptations. The 2009 movie, the 2019 series, and also the Doomsday Clock comic. I think that would be really fun. Notably in Damon Lindelof, we also have Star Trek in 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness. Both are films that I very much enjoy. I don't know if they're necessarily like amazing. I haven't gone back to rewatch them in quite a while. I remember them being very good, but I feel like there are certain plot points that I don't necessarily like. So there's a weird mix of stuff here on Damon Lindelof's filmography. We have the screenplay for World War Z, a movie that when it came out, I think I probably watched like 15 times. I don't know why I liked this movie so much, but this was the first movie that I actually enjoyed seeing Brad Pitt in something. I hadn't seen much of him before this, but I just wasn't very familiar. And then I saw this, I liked him, and like I said, that's not the main reason I liked the movie. But yeah, for some reason I watched it like 15 times. I think it's just because it was on Netflix. I don't know. Maybe it must have been a weird time in my life for me to watch a movie about a zombie apocalypse like 15 times. But then we also have Cowboys and Aliens, right? An absolutely terrible film. A terrible film. I remember when this came out. I believe we saw it in theaters. I didn't realize it was directed by Jon Favreau, though. So that sort of colors my opinion of him ever so slightly. Man, look at this cast, though. Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, Olivia Wilde, Clancy Brown, Paul Dano, Sam Rockwell. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. This should have been amazing. Oh, wow. Look at all these writing credits. That's crazy. How many is that? 8? Oh, no, sorry. There's these 2 down here. Or this is just 1. Oh, but this doesn't count. That's just or maybe it does count. I guess I don't know how much of a role he played in the adaptation of this film, but that was the comic author. So a really weird mixed bag. We've got some absolute amazing things, and then we've got some pieces of poop, let's just say, to keep this PG. So Damon Lindelof, I don't know. This is. I mean, this could be amazing, or it could turn into a nothing burger, but that's certainly something. I did notice here under upcoming, it has Star Wars New Jedi Order still under IMDb. The last I had heard, and this was an article from, I want to say, of April of 23, so this may be out of date, but I have April 23 from Variety, Damon Lindelof, Star Wars exit, I was asked to leave. So I don't believe he's attached to that project as of right now. This is the sequel to Rise of Skywalker that follows Rey 15 years afterwards. He was attached to it. Like I said, I did a quick Google search. I literally Googled Damon Lindelof Star Wars, and this was the top news story. So I assume this is the most recent update. Not attached anymore. I'm not 100% sure, if that changes your opinion of this upcoming Star Wars film. I'm not 100% sure. And the circumstances of his leaving were kind of weird too. I know he threw a little bit of shade at the studio afterwards in some interviews, but not typically, like not a really crazy amount. We also have Chris Mundy. Now this is somebody whose work I am unfamiliar with. I'm going to be upfront about that. Obviously, the top credit here is Ozark, the Netflix original series. I know one that I absolutely have to watch now, not just for Chris Mundy, but also because Julia Garner, our Shala Ball, plays a role in this, for which she won an Emmy. So I know that this is one that I need to watch at some point. I think I might continue to put it off a little bit until we get a little bit closer to Fantastic Four. Just because of Julia Garner, and presumably, we're not getting Lanterns for years, for at least 2 years. Also, Chris Mundy played a large role as a producer and showrunner on Criminal Minds, a show that I have seen parts of. I didn't watch the whole thing. I don't know. Oops, I hit back. I don't know how long this went for, but it's a procedural drama. It's from the era of cable television. So, Yeah, 15 seasons. This maybe one of these days I'll get to it and watch the whole thing. But from the few episodes and clips that I've seen, it's obviously a great show. Another crime drama mystery, right? So we have Criminal Minds. We've got let me get back to this guy. I thought I was going to hit back and be right there, but I was wrong. True Detective, obviously. And what just a tremendous show, an anthology series all about, obviously some detectives. So we have some, in this writing cast for this series, we have some absolutely incredible crime writing. The chops on the crime writing here are absolutely insane. And so I am really interested to see where this show goes. I think it's going to be amazing and a true detective style mystery with space cops. Come on. I'm already involved here. I'm already interested. Notably, elsewhere in the DC universe, we also have Superman coming out July 11th, 2025, Supergirl, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This would be the film that I mentioned earlier, the basis of which was written by Tom King, and the screenplay for this is also being written by him. Batman, the Brave and the Bold, Swamp Thing. This is another one that I'm really interested in. I would assume Tom King is going to have some involvement in this as well, as he has a very highly praised run on the Swamp Thing as well. He's mostly known for his work in Batman and for the Supergirl comic, but he did have this high run as well. We have the Authority, the ensemble cast that we mentioned. I believe I had heard a rumor that this group was going to have a bit cameo appearance in the Superman movie. As for the upcoming TV shows in the DCU, we have Paradise Lost, which is a Wonder Woman prequel series set on Themyscira. Booster Gold, I don't believe he's been cast yet. Oh, man, Shade just told me a fan casting literally yesterday that he was really excited for and thought would make perfect sense, but now I can't remember. It's a blonde guy who's pretty active right now. It's not going to come to me. Maybe it was Glenn Powell, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't even think he's blonde. And maybe his name's just top of mind because he's been in the news lately. I don't know. We also have Creature Commandos. This is an animated series. Recently, we had news from here that Frank Grillo... Oh, here we go. Frank Grillo will be playing Rick Flag Sr., a role that he will reprise additionally in Peacemaker Season 2 when that is released. We have the Waller TV series. This one is live action as opposed to the animated Creature Commandos. And then the Lantern TV series. Now, notably, most of the DC Studios upcoming projects have no release date. They're all still very early in production. I would be surprised if we hear anything more from this Lanterns series. I would be surprised if we hear anything before the end of the year. Actually, that's not true. Well, maybe we'll see some castings. I'm interested to see who they cast as Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan. As I've said before, I am famously very bad with fan castings. My brain just does not work very well. So let me know down below in the comments, who do you guys think should play Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan in the upcoming Lantern series? Is this something that you're going to enjoy and you're excited for? Let me know down below. Make sure that you subscribe for more nerd content, and then we will see you back here tomorrow for another news segment, and I'll catch you guys then.